Hello and welcome to the Alpha Software Demo and Q&A webcast. I'm Dave McCormick, VP of Product Management here at Alpha Software. Today we've got, since it is a demo and QA, we're going to be doing a demonstration on the Alpha Software Security Framework. And this is based on a question that was asked at a previous webinar. But as a reminder, you can ask questions at any time. You can send questions to guides, GUIDES, at alphasoftware.com. And also during our session, you can type them into either the chat window or the questions window in your GoToWebinar control panel. If I know how to answer the questions today, I will attempt it. If not, I will do them on a future webinar. Today's session, just a quick thing. I always do a quick AV check to make sure everything is going okay. I see that you can hear me. Actually, I've noticed that someone said they can hear me. Can you see my mouse moving around here on the screen? If you could just let me know that in the questions box, that would be great. Moving the mouse. Does anyone see? It should say Alpha Software Security. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So the Alpha Software Security Framework has been in the product for some time, but some updates were made to it, I believe, last year that just made it much easier to use. It has a new Genie that's been built into it. It has logging. It has a bunch of other cool new features. If you're going to use the Alpha Software Security Framework, and I encourage you to do so, and you are starting from a brand new application, you're starting from scratch, you might take a look at the Alpha Test Drive as your starting point. This already has the security framework built in, as well as some of the administrative pages that you'll need, some login pages, and it's organized in a manner that works well on both mobile and on web. However, today's question doesn't have to do with starting from scratch. It has to do with what happens if you've already built your application and then you want to add the security framework to it. Well, that is actually pretty easy to do, and we've got some great tools that will help you out. So today is pretty much entirely a live demo day, and we're going to be taking a look at that. We're going to start first by building a simple application, just 2 pages in it. One will be a page for regular users, one will be a page for administrators. But neither of these pages, but we want these pages to be protected, so you can't get to them unless you have logged in. So let's do an example of that. I'm going to pop over here into Alpha Anywhere, and I'm going to start a new web project. We'll call this security demo. And I'm not going to bother for now enabling the security framework for this project, but we will turn it on in a minute. So I'm going to click OK. I'm going to start a new empty project, and we're going to make this really simple. We're going to just create a single UX component. So I'm going to go into New. I'm going to choose UX, and we'll choose one of the samples. So here's one called Customers Simple. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And let's just take a look and see what that looks like. And so this is just basically a simple data entry form where you can enter in information about customers. There's a little note with this one saying that it has not yet been routed to a table. So this wouldn't fully work until I connected it up to like a SQLite table. Now, I'm not going to do that because we don't need to today. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and save this. We're going to call this customers. And we are going to take a look at SQLite because I've got a SQLite project that has already been set up. Now, what I'm demoing today is using SQLite. You can use any database you want. So MariaDB, SQL Server, SQLite, doesn't matter which ones you're using. But I just wanted to show you that I do have a database called TestDB that I have already set up, and I've shown how to set up databases in prior webinars. So I'm not going to go too far into depth on that today. All right, so we're going to go back into the Web Projects control panel, and that is my customers page. That'll sort of be like the main page of my application. So I'm going to go into A5W pages, and we're going to create a page on which that web component will live. Because as a reminder, when you build a web component, you can't actually see it unless it's embedded in an A5W page. So here's my A5W page, and I am going to embed that component. So I'm going to say insert component. Oh, I got to save the page first. And we're going to make this our index page. In other words, the one you come to first. So we're going to call this index. admin.a5w. All right, so there's index.a5w. It is blank. We're going to insert a component, and the component we're going to choose is the UX that we just built. And we can set the page background to match the style. Doesn't really make any difference here. We're going to click Save. Okay, and now we're done. We've got our first page. Now, our second page, new A5W page, it's going to be really simple. We're just going to say, in fact, I can do this as, I'll do it as WYSIWYG. I'm going to say, this is the admin page. I'm going to save this, and I will call it admin. So now I've got two pages. One is for administrators, and one is for both administrators and regular users, and here it is. So if I were to run this application, let's say I wanted to go ahead and say, let's just do it now. Let's do a live test. And say we want to launch the index page when we are done. What I should see is that component I just showed you, along with its notes. All right, cool. Now let's add a link. Yeah, let's leave that site. Let's add a link into that page. So we'll go back into web components. That'll link to the admin page. So I'm going to go into controls, move down to about, I don't know, here. Add a control. It's going to be a hyperlink. There we go, link. And the hyperlink text is just going to say admin. And then the link is going to go to, hyperlink is going to go to, actually, well, here's the href target. Here it is. It's going to go to, oh, hang on, I'm getting into the weeds here. I don't mean to be. It's supposed to just go to a simple hyperlink page. I'll come back to that in a second, though. So there's the hyperlink that we're going to do. Text class, hyperlink text, address, duh. It's right in front of me. I want it to go to the admin page, admin.a5w. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save on that. All right, that is saved. Now I have a very simple application that doesn't have any security on it. If I run the index page again, okay, nope. Should see up here at the top, we've got a link called admin. If I click on admin, it takes me to, this is the admin page. Okay. Our app is ready to go, but we don't have any security on it. So now we are going to use the security genie to set this up. So we're going to go up here into web security and click on this button here. And these are different elements of security that you could set up. Users and groups, you can set up the login component. Security configuration is a bunch of different settings as well. But I always suggest nowadays starting from the Genie. The Genie makes it so much easier, and that's what we're going to be doing today. So we're going to click on the hyperlink, use the Genie, use the setup Genie to automatically set up the web security settings. So I'm going to go ahead and click that, and I get this quick setup Genie. So what the quick setup Genie does is really a bunch of things. First of all, not only does it turn on the web security framework, but it also creates some sample users for you to get started with. You can delete these users later and put in real users, of course, but it's a great way to test out your app. There are a few other settings that you want to set up here. The first is, what kind of usernames do you want to use? Do you want it to be email address, which is typically what I prefer, or you can have it a value, so just be like a username or something like that. It asks you how many groups it wants you to set up. So it's just going to set up a bunch. 5 is fine. I might do 3. Do you want to have a super administrator? That's actually sometimes a good thing for the person who designed the app to have higher privileges than just the account administrator. That's a good thing. But of course, how you set this up is sort of up to you. But I'd say use super administrator. And then here, create the sample components. You are going to want to do that. And so what the sample components are, just to let you know, is you're going to have things like the ability to add and remove users, the ability to add and remove groups, and things like that. those will be built for you if you check this box, which is checked by default. So we'll leave it like that. The next thing is called the extended user information table. When you set up the framework does have a database that keeps track of usernames and passwords, but it doesn't keep track of much more than that. You're probably going to want to keep track of additional information. You probably want first name and last name. If you're using user ID, you might want email address. You might want an actual physical address, or some other information about that user that you want to keep tied to the user, but it will not be put in their username password tables. So I always check on that box. And then it says, okay, so if you're going to use the user information table, what connection string do you want to use? What database are we going to use? We're going to click on that. There's that test connection database connection string that I set up earlier. I'm going to choose that. Okay. Now, on top of that, besides the user extended information table, there are some other system tables that you can use. I'm going to check on them right here. They're used for a variety of reasons. I like using the SQL log. So if you're doing SQL transactions, it keeps track of basically what was requested, so that you can get a feel for sort of, I would call it the telemetry of the inside of your application. If something is acting kind of funny, you could go back to the SQL logs and take a look. So I like to turn that one on as well. Active users is a neat one because it allows you as the administrator to see who has been using the system and what calls they've been making, which is great. Another one that is good is the audit one, which keeps track of who changed what data. This is key if you're building like a HIPAA type of application. You're going to want to enable that audit button right there. The other ones, this is customized help. Global settings, I forget what that is, but you can just click here, what are the system tables, and it will explain them to you. Text dictionary is used for doing foreign language translations if you want to be able to switch on the fly. Synchronization log is used in certain offline applications to make sure that data is not duplicated when it's put into a database. There are other ways of doing that. So typically just the ones that I turn on are going to be SQL log, active users, and audit. And so I'm going to say, yes, go ahead and enable the security framework. Now, a couple of things are going to happen when I do that. Whoops, I forgot I need to give it a connection string, because it's going to build out that log table, the users table, and that audit table for me. So I'm going to click here, and we're going to choose test connection and say yes. And it says this already has it enabled. I don't remember enabling it. It doesn't really make any difference. We're going to say yes. It's been enabled. And now here are the users, user 0 through user 5. So this is the format. It's user0@alpha.com, user1@alpha.com, and then the passwords are user0 alpha exclamation point with a capital U. The first two users are the super administrator and the administrator, and the next are assigned to different groups. These are all just for testing. You're probably going to go through and delete these later, but they're just good to have for now while we're working on our application. I'm going to go ahead and click closed. And now the next thing it's going to say is I'm going to build a login component for you. What would you like it to look like? I'm going to put a default image on it. Would you like the image to the left or to the right of the login controls? So let's put it on the left, let's just say. Okay. Now we're going to go over here and take a look at these A5W pages. If you remember before, I made one called index and one called admin. But look, 3 more have appeared. One is called insufficient permissions, which pops up if you're not logged in or you're trying to get to a page where you don't have access. We have a login page, and we have this thing called tabbed UI, master tabbed UI, which includes a bunch of interesting tools for doing for working with users. So you can change user roles, you can add and remove users, you can do some other things as well. I'm going to show you what that looks like in a second. It's also built out some web components here as well, including the login web components for resetting password, for setting 2-factor authentication preferences, and all these things. So all of this stuff has been built for you, and you can start using this in your application. So the first thing we're going to do is let's go back over here to the SQLite Studio, and I'm going to do a refresh. I think I can refresh. Tables, we should see some new tables in here. click. Ah, we do. Okay. And as you'll see, these are the tables that were built for us automatically by Alpha. There's the one for the active users to see what users have been up to. There's the audit table for keeping track of what data has been changed. Here's the extended user info table, and here is the SQL log. So they are all here and built for us and ready to go. Okay, with that done, let's just go ahead and see what the app looks like. Let's say we were to just do a remote test this time on our index page again. So live test. And let's see what happens. Aha, forbidden. I don't have the credentials to go right to that page, and that's because I'm not logged in. So the first page I'm going to want to go to when I launch my app is, in fact, the login page. We're going to try that again. We're going to go down here to login, choose OK. All right. And let's try logging in. So user one, I happen to know is one of the admin ones. User one. Huh? And when I log in, it takes me to this thing called Tabbed UI, Master Tabbed UI, the thing I showed you earlier, one of the new components. This is cool because it shows you different things. It shows you, for example, who's currently on the system, which is just me. So I can refresh data. There I am, user one. I have 2 activities, and I can look at them in detail. So on. I have built this, by the way, this is already built into the Alpha Test Drive application, this functionality too. So if you're starting from scratch, you might want to look there. There you can maintain users and groups. Like I said before, you can add and remove groups, you can add and remove users, and you can assign users to particular groups if you want to. This is the extended information table, which shows you all the additional information about our users, which is nothing at the moment. And here you can set up 2-factor authentication. If you're a user who would like to turn that on, you can switch that on. And then it asks you a couple questions, like do you want to use SMS or Google Authenticator or email or any of these. I've definitely covered this in other webinars, so I'm not going to dive too deeply in here, but I just wanted to show you that it does create all of these tools for you. And chances are you're going to want to steal these tools and build them into your own app. So you may not use this tabbed UI, but you absolutely go in and take the code behind the tabbed UI and use it as you see fit in your existing application. All right, so couple other things that I want to show you. First is what if I didn't want to go to this page? What if I just wanted to go directly, as soon as I logged in, I wanted to go right into that customer's UX? How do I set that up? So yeah, we'll go ahead and leave site. So I'll show you how we do that. One thing to do, and this is just something I always do, is if I'm in a web page and I want to know what component is being used in that web page, because if you see in web components, there are 3 that say login. You have login JSON form, login JSON form image up left. And these are used by the system when they were setting it up. But as it turns out, login is the only one that we are using. I can verify that fact by going into A5W pages, double clicking on login, taking a peek at the source, and you'll see that my dialog is called login. So that's how I knew which one was the right one. So back here in Web Components, we're going to double click on login. Yep, go ahead and make a backup. You'll see it's a fairly robust component. It handles all kinds of things like lost passwords, forgotten passwords, password reset, 2-factor authentication, I think is covered here as well. Yep, 2-factor settings are set here as well, and all of that. But what I want to do is I want this, when I log in, to go directly to my index page. So instead of my tabbed UI page. So what I'm going to do actually here instead, I could set it up there, but I'm going to set it up here in web security. And we're going to go into security configuration. And this opens up a multi-tab dialog box. And under login options, this is what we're going to set right here, redirect page after login. So I don't want to go to that master tabbed UI. Instead, I want to go to my index page. And I'm going to click OK. And I'm going to close that. And it's not going to work if I try it. And I'll tell you why. even though I have told it I want to go to the index page when I'm there, I'm not actually allowed to go to the index page because nobody is. Here's why. When you set up the security framework, it by default and for safety sets everything basically to a permission denied state. So here we are in index. I'm going to right click on it and say who's allowed to see this. So we're going to go down to page security. See, it says always denied. Well, that's not at all what we want. I could make it so it's always allowed, but I don't want that either. So I'm going to say I want it to require login. So if you're logged in, then you're allowed to see the page. So I'm going to click requires login, and then all I have to do is tell it what groups are allowed to see that page. So I'm going to say okay. Now here's a gotcha for people who've done the security framework just a couple of times. That index page actually has got a web component on it. That web component also needs to have permission set to it. So we're going to go to the web components. We're going to go down to that customers one that we built at the beginning of our session. We're going to right click here, component security, and we're going to say that this one requires login as well. And again, here are the people who are allowed to use it. All right, so we'll click OK on that. And now if I do a live test and I choose the login page first, if all goes well, yes, I already have one running. This one. If all goes well, it should redirect me. Oh, if I don't type it in wrong. What did I do wrong? Oh, capital S. There we go. It allowed me here. Now, I've logged in as an admin, but let's say I were to have logged out. I'm going to start this again. And I came in just as a user. If I were to click this admin button, what would happen? Well, I guess you'd already guessed this. It would say 403 forbidden. You don't have access to that resource because just like the index pages and the other ones, we haven't actually set what the permissions are for that one. So let's go to our admin page. We're going to right click on it. We're going to say page security, but this time we're going to say that it requires login and only administrators and super admins are allowed to go there. So I'm going to click OK on that. We're going to go ahead and do a live test. And we're going to go to our login page. I'm going to try to type in the right username and password combo this time. All right. Log in. What did I do? Same problem as last time? Same typos last time. Look at me. Consistent. All right, now admin, I'm an administrator. I should be able to go there. I've clicked admin and this is the admin page. If I had logged in as a regular user, it would have told me that I'm not allowed to go to that page. But I'm just gonna let you sort of take my word for it because I wanna show you something even more clever. And that is, what if we could just hide that admin link altogether unless I was an administrator? So there's not even a link for them to click on. And I'll show you how you do that. So I'm going to go ahead and close that down. And this is what's nice about the security framework being baked into like every part of Alpha. When you are in a web component, pretty much every control can be aware of what the security situation is with the person using it. This is what I mean by that. If I go into web components, we're going to go down into with my admin page. Oh, sorry, the customers component. That hyperlink I just built before, the one that takes you to admin.a5w, I can actually set security on that. I can say security groups. I can click on that. And I can say I only want this to appear to work if I'm one of these two things. If I'm in group 1 or group 2, no thank you. So I'm going to click OK. I'm going to save. And then this time we're going to come back in as a user, but just a regular user, not an administrator. So click no. Okay. So user 2 at alpha.com, user 2. Let's see, did I make a typo? I'm always doing that. All right. All right. Nope. No, thank you. And look what's missing. Do you see what you don't see? You don't see the admin link. The admin link has been hidden because I am a regular user. So that's most of what I wanted to show you today, except there is one other thing. And in most modern applications, when you log in, you're often given the option of logging in with something besides your username and password. You can log in, say, with your Google account. So we have Google actually and AWS and Firebase all as authentication providers that you can use in your application. And it's very simple actually to add them. So I'm going to show you how we add them today. So today is a twofer, not just how you add a security framework to your existing application, but also how to take advantage of Google authorization. So to do that, we're going to go into our login component. And here it is. And we're going to go into properties. And in the properties of this login component, I'm going to scroll down until we get to login. Here it is. And you'll see there are a bunch of login settings right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to say allow login using Google as an example. If we do that, we have to be set up with Google already to do that. So we're going to need to have a, I think it's a client ID for our app and like a API key. But if you click on this, it'll prompt you. So here's the client ID and the secret key. So how do you get these from Google? Well, what you do is you click here, how to set up login with Google, and it will show you. And it basically walks you through on the Google Cloud Platform what you need to register your application with them so that you can use them as a provider. So we've already got that wrapped in, which, trust me, if you tried to write that yourself, is an awful lot of work. Here you just check a checkbox, you fill in a couple of things that you can get from Google, and you've got Google authentication running. AWS is the same thing. You can set up AWS settings as well. Again, they use a client ID and a secret key. You can choose the default sign-in method, for example. You could say I prefer people by default to use Google as opposed to username and password. So there's an awful lot of things that you can do here. All right, so I have been ignoring the questions box up till now because I've been having so much fun doing the demo. So let's take a look and see what questions have popped up. And if you've got any additional ones, now is a great time to type them in. Okay, now this is a future suggestion, but I really like it. Is put this on the wish list. Wouldn't it be great if AA would check to see whether the web server port is in use, and then maybe the appropriate choice on whether or not to start the service? That is true. So what they're referring to is every time, for example, I went into let's say I went into live preview, it's gonna say, would you like me to start the server? Yes, no, cancel. So if it has started already for you and Alpha Anywhere already knows about it because you're using, I'm not using the development server, I'm using a different server, I'm using the application server in the background. But if you were using the development server and you already worked it, it would have already just started it for you. Or you can set it, I think you can set it to start for you. But otherwise, if it doesn't know what port you're on, you have to say either no, I don't want to do this preview, or no, I want to cancel this preview. But there is a setting where you can skip this dialog box altogether, and it's in settings, and I think it's in project settings. Let me go find that. And you can actually shut that off. I tend to leave it on because sometimes I'm using one server and sometimes I'm using another. I think it is in here. If not, it might be in published settings, but I think it's in here. So it's server. I am blanking on how to do that, but it is one of the things you can do, is you can shut that off. I guess I will show it to you next time. So it says, when you are a member of multiple groups, does AA serve pages based on least restrictive or most restrictive settings? Well, it's kind of binary with the groups. So with the groups, if you're not in that group, like you can be an administrator, but if that group is only set to users, um, and not administrators, oddly enough, that administrator can be locked out of it, even though you'd think a user should, an administrator should always have access to those pages. So basically, you always have to keep in mind, like if you're going to be marked as an administrator, then make sure that all of your pages, all of your components are marked so they can be viewed as an administrator. So that's kind of how that works. Are there plans to add support for Microsoft Entra ID? Is that ENTRA? That I don't know. Let me take a look. Entra ID. I don't know. I will take a look at our roadmap. It's a great question, though. Get back to you on that one as well. All right. Any other questions that we have today? Doesn't look like it. Okay, wonderful. Hey, thank you very much, everyone, for showing up. Really appreciate it. If you've got additional questions, you know where to send them. Guides, GUIDES at alphasoftware.com. I hope to see you next week. Until then, take care and stay well. Bye-bye.